turn mine on. Are we here? And can we see the audience? Can y'all see yourselves? We good? All right. So we'll turn this back around. Got it. All right. So you have that one set up? There we go. We're here today to discuss the suicide epidemic in Indian country and what you as Native youth can do to be a part of the solution to end a crisis that's affecting so many of your peers. So, pointing the wrong way. There we go. Suicide among 14 to 25-year-old Native American youth is 2.5 times that of the general population and represents the second leading cause of death in this population. The first leading cause of death is incidental, like motor vehicle wrecks. So the numbers are astounding. 1 in 5 Native youth deaths are attributed to suicide. And this is why it's called an epidemic. An epidemic meaning that it's a widespread issue within a population. We have a statistic chart up here. You can see all males and all females, but then you can see First Nation females, which are the darker dotted line, and then you see your First Nation males, and they're in the age range of, right here, we're going to peak at 20 with the highest amount of suicides happening within that population. So let me start by telling you who I am. My name is Payne-Hurt. I'm a caseworker for Indian Child Welfare, meaning I work with Indian children that have been removed from their homes or at risk of removal. I'm also a mom of 6 children, most of who are here today, and there's also several teenagers, and they, like myself, are in real Chickasaw, except for my adopted daughter, who is Choctaw. So what we're looking to accomplish today is for you, Native youth, to gain an understanding of peer-focused suicide prevention. And so what peer focus means, it means having a discussion with Native youth, which is you guys, so that you can turn around and help Native youth. And so by gaining a knowledge and awareness, you will be able to take part in helping repair connections, rebuilding family systems, and your community. And you'll also learn how to help your peers by embracing culture and teaching them to embrace their own culture. So let's talk about how we got here. So in 1879, under the authority of the U.S. government, the first boarding school, Carlisle, was opened. This began what we call the boarding school era. During this era, 1/3 of all Native children were removed from their families and sent to these schools. It was extremely traumatic. So I want you youth to take a minute and think about this. Imagine a child sometimes as young as 4 and 5 years old. They're playing in their yard, they're at home, they're with family. Strangers show up speaking a language that they do not understand, a language their parents don't understand. Without any understanding, the children are removed and they're taken by these strangers. The parents are crying and screaming, trying to hold on to their children, and at the same time, the children are crying and screaming, trying to hold on to their parents. They're taken to a place where they share a room with other children that have just experienced the same trauma. They're not allowed to speak their language. The foods are different. The clothing is different. They can't play their games, they can't dance, or anything else that resembles their own culture. If they do, they're punished, most of the time physically. This was an effort by white man to do what we call assimilate. Assimilation is when they tried to make the Indians look and act and think like the white man. This meant learning to speak English and presenting themselves as modern people. And here you can see this is the same child. This is Thomas More in his culture and with his family. This is Thomas More after he was removed from his culture and put into a boarding school. And you can see where they've cut his hair off, they've taken his clothes, they've tried to make him look like society at that time wanted him to look like. So the result of this is stemming from a breakdown of culture during this era. Many ancestral values were lost. There was a destruction of the Native family system, a system that's highly dependent on generational connections. Children grew up and came home, but they did not know how to parent because they were parented in boarding schools. And they weren't parented, they were controlled. So the result of these efforts was historical trauma. It didn't just affect a person or a small group of people, it affected all Native Americans on some level. If it wasn't your children being removed, it was your nieces or your nephews or your brothers or your sisters. The pain was so great that natives often turned to other things because the reality of that was too much to handle. The effects of historical trauma include mental health issues, alcoholism, substance abuse, and poverty, all of which are risk factors of suicide. This list is a risk factors of suicide that's been put out by the CDC. You look at this list, it contains things like family history of suicide, family history of child maltreatment, previous suicide attempts, history of mental disorders, history of alcohol and substance abuse, feelings of hopelessness. The list just goes on and on and on. But what does that mean for us? Well, because of historical and intergenerational trauma. Intergenerational meaning even if it didn't happen to us, it happened to our parents or our grandparents. And so because it happened to them, it still affects us. Because of that, the risk factors for suicide are already prevalent in the Native culture. That means that Native people already have these risk factors. We don't have to go look for them. It's not something extra has to happen in our lives. They're there because we were born Native. So then we go to what can you do and why we're here today. What you can do as Native youth is increase the knowledge and awareness about suicide among your peers. And in doing so, you can take steps to address the silence and the fear that exists in many of our communities, preventing use of available prevention and treatment services. You're doing that by being here today. You can embrace and build community support in order for those that are hurting to be able to reach out and find the help that they're needing. You can start small groups at your school. You can join local cultural programs. You can build a network of support. You can use your social media even to open these conversations and help educate others. You can also embrace your culture and look for healing and traditions. Help peers gain a sense of their identity. You're asking adults to help organize events. You can have a powwow or a walk, and the purpose of those can be to bring awareness just to suicide. And so what we're doing here today is a call to action. The more you become aware of the problem that your peers are facing, then you can understand what I believe is at the core of suicide prevention. And that is that suicide is not about wanting to die. It's about people wanting the pain to stop. You have the ability to help your peers unpack their pain and find healing. You can have those conversations. You can ask others, are you okay? You can ask if they need a friend. You can ask if they need help. And if you find a peer in trouble, you can seek help from an adult, like a school counselor, or you can seek help from an elder in your tribe. And then I've got on the board the National Suicide Hotline so that you can also call that as well. And at this point, we'll open up for any questions anybody may have. I don't know how to stop this.
Is there currently any